Hello, everybody, and we're going live this week. So I wanted to actually do this because, so I'm going to be honest. I've actually been having some health issues. I got COVID about 6 weeks ago, fully recovered from COVID, but I've had basically long-term effects from it. And so it's been very difficult to get everything done. Doing this show, even though only once a week, takes a lot of work. You have to produce it, you have to write it, you have to do the research. You guys see my graphics. I put a lot into this show. And so it's been challenging to say the least to get it done. And so this week, hopefully, I'm under new medication, feeling way better. And so hopefully I'll be able to do the regular show in the upcoming weeks. I'm going to be taking next week off. So if you are watching, I will not be here next Friday. This weekend starts the Passover holiday. I'm going to take the week off, fully recover, start putting in some effort into producing shows for the following week and weeks ahead. Already have some ideas for shows. So actually, I want to kind of go over some ideas with you guys because I want you to think about these questions. I like when you put your answers in the comments. So here are the ideas for the next couple weeks. So one of them is retail versus wholesale. That whole concept, which I think is confusing a lot of people, where basically, like, how do you sell the cards, or how do you know what your cards are worth? Because a lot of people, obviously, you're not wrong if you are a collector and you want top dollar for your cards. You're like, that's a normal thing. Like, if I have cards, I want to get the most money for them. The issue is that if you're not going to sell them individually, again, if you sell a card individually, it's reasonable to expect that you're going to get, 80% or 75% of comps. Or, if it's a top card, you can get 85, maybe even 90% of comps. The problem is that most of your cards are just not worth, they're not top cards. They're not top players. They're marginal players. And then you also have commons. And so if you're talking about a marginal player, it's really unreasonable to think that you're going to get 85% of comps. That's just the way the hobby is. And so there's this retail aspect, and then there's this wholesale aspect. So I want to kind of go over retail versus wholesale. Because if you're trying to sell your collection, now a lot of you are collectors. I did a poll on the channel, and 60% of people who are watching, I have just over 2,100 subscribers, and 60% of the people watching consider themselves collectors, not flippers. So since that's what my audience is, it's mostly collectors, then you guys are trying to get the most amount of money or the most value for your cards, which is, again, totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you go to sell, you have to understand, like, if you want the most amount, you have to sell individually. That's how you can get retail. So if you go to, eBay, you have many different ways you can sell your cards. But, let's say eBay is the most popular one, because it is. You can do it by auction, which means you're going to get exactly the most amount that you will. Now, there are some tricks to the trade. Like if you set your auction for Sunday night at like midnight to end, you're not going to get the most. Typically my suggestion would be to, schedule your auctions to end at prime time between 8 and 10 p.m. basically East Coast time. That's my suggestion. So if you're not in New York, then set it for 8 to 10 New York time. And so wherever you are around the country, your auction should be ending between that time frame, or even 7 p.m. But it should be prime time. That's when people are online. That's when the most amount of people are online. So if you want to get the most amount in an auction, you want your auctions to end at that point. Again, that's just my recommendation. Now, if you're not trying to get the most amount of money, again, most of you are, but if you're not trying to get the most amount of money, then you can sell in bulk, which is in these lots. And once you sell in lots, you have to sell at a discount, at a steep discount, like 50% discount. And I know that makes people upset. I understand, but that's the point, is that if you really want to sell your cards, let's say I spoke to somebody the last week. So they had a comment. I got their comment. They had 400,000 cards. Again, 400,000 cards is a hoard. It's not a collection. That's a hoard. You have way too many cards. You can't go through them. I made the suggestion, just inventory your cards, because you should, if you have a collection, you should know what you have. Not only that, but you should have a good idea of what it's worth, because you might want to insure it. If we're calling this an asset, then you should insure your asset with an insurance company, and you need a policy. And so you have to know relatively how much it's worth. So if your collection is worth $10,000, you're going to consider an insurance policy for $10,000 on your collection. If it's worth more than that, then yeah, I really, really recommend you get an insurance policy, because what if something happens? What if there's a fire? Your cards are gone. You want to be able to recoup that money so you can potentially go buy the cards again. You can't do that unless you have an insurance policy. If this is a legit asset to you guys, then you need to start being serious about it. If it's just a collectible and you don't really care that much about it, then you have to stop arguing that, oh, it's important to me, but I don't want to buy an insurance policy against it. So again, I can suss out, as Gen Z people say, it's sus. Yeah, it's a little sus sometimes, your arguments on those things. So that's the first idea. The second idea is kind of talking about, in a real way, the sports card investor. At this point, so SCI, Jeff Wilson, the whole thing, basically Cards HQ, like where he's at this point in his trajectory, in his journey, and also in the hobby, because he's made a huge turnaround from where he started to where he is now. And I think it might be helpful for people to understand that. But I want to know your questions. So I want to have your questions on, retail versus wholesale. I want your questions on collecting versus flipping. And I want your questions on the sports card investor, Jeff Wilson, and what you think about him in the hobby. Or if there's other influencers that you would like me to look into, then yes, absolutely. Let's do that. Let's do some deep dives, and let's start going into the, into the factual aspect of what's going on. Am I worried that Jeff Wilson will sue me? Well, I mean, he's a litigious guy. So, I mean, it's certainly possible that if anybody talks about him, he will potentially sue them. He won't have a case against me, because I'm not going to make things up. Like, I'm just going to be factual. I'm just going to say, and then I'm going to give opinion. And you can't sue me for an opinion, especially if it's based on fact. Now, again, he can sue me for anything. Like, he can launch a lawsuit for anything. That's his right to do so, but he won't have a case. Am I worried about that? I mean, I doubt he really, I doubt he's following me. I doubt he'll ever find out about this video, but then again, you never know. Sports Card Radio found me, and, I've had, off the record, conversations with them, and they've been totally fine. Again, I met Mojo Sports like 2 weeks ago, had a wonderful conversation with him. He's just a normal guy. Like, a lot of these people, I think, have personas online, and then in real life, they're different, and I think a lot of that, and again, hopefully people who are watching this, and also the majority of my audience is between the ages of about 30 to 45. So, and most of them are not parents. So, okay, we're not dealing with parents and dealing with kid issues. So I get it. I understand my audience. But if you're between the age of 30 and 45, then you should know that YouTube and online and social media is creating what's called parasocial relationships, where you kind of think that you know somebody based on how much time you spend watching their videos. But the truth is, you don't actually know who they are. You know the impression, the image that they have given you. And so I'm not sure what the image you guys have of me. I'll put it that way. And if you want to put what your impression of me is in the comments, that would be awesome. I would love to read the impressions that you guys have of me. Yeah, it would be eye-opening, to be quite honest with you. Be very eye-opening. Like, what is your impression of me and this show? And do you have a negative impression? Do you have a positive impression? Do you think that, I know a few of my followers, which I appreciate, like I have a few followers who honestly hate everything I say, but they're followers and they watch every show. And it's like, okay, there's nothing I'm going to be able to do to change that impression, but I appreciate how much you dedicated to hating everything I say. And that's a dedication. It's sort of the Howard Stern effect. When Howard Stern first got to New York City, his ratings were off the chart because everybody was listening to him. The people who loved him was listening to him and they even said this in the movie Private Parts. Everyone's listening to him because they can't wait to hear what he's going to say next. And then all the people that hated him were listening because they can't wait for the next thing he's going to say so they can outrage themselves. So he had audience members who were hanging on every single show because they couldn't wait for the next thing he was going to say because his fans were going to be excited and then his detractors were going to be outraged. I don't think that I'm that polarizing. I really don't. I don't think that I am. But then again, I do have a few followers, maybe a handful, who don't like anything I say. It doesn't matter what topic I pick. It doesn't matter how much I talk about it. But, like, again, I appreciate the following. I appreciate the viewership. But what I hope is it's not that if you don't like what I say or you do like what I say. I like the participation. What I like is when I get those comments, and I do the comments every single week because I like to see what you're talking about. Because on this show and on this channel, you have a voice. You can actually say something, and I'm reading it going, oh, okay, that's where you're coming from. And I pick out comments all over the place. I don't just cherry pick comments where I'm like, oh, let's just do these because these are the positive ones. No, I pick out contrarian comments. Now, if every single week all you do is just make insults, then no, I'm going to ignore you because I'm just going to ignore you. Like, if you want to participate, put down a good comment. So I got one right here. This is from Michael. I appreciate it. So let's see. So I discovered you through the Do Sports Cards Go Over Time video where you actually showed that your Mantl's pretty much just kept up with inflation. That is correct. I was interested to know, like, do these sports cards actually appreciate in value? I never had looked at it, but I was watching another YouTube channel who was basically saying all Mantles just go up. But that was it. Now, again, this was during the pandemic. That video is 2 years old now. So this is during a time when the bubble was in the bubble. So if it didn't go up then, what do you think now? Now, I will say that the Mantles actually are stronger than the bubble. The Mantles have not come down. In fact, Mantles have actually increased in value since the pandemic and since the bubble has burst. So that's an interesting thing to think about, is that, and so that's what I want to work on too, is what's the list of the players that have been sort of recession proof, what have been pandemic proof, because those are the players that all of you, if you want to do a store of value, like, so if you want to make this into an asset, it needs to store value long term. So if you buy it now, in 10 years from now, it'll be worth relatively the same amount of money. Now, that is true of the Mantles. It's worth relatively the same amount that when I bought it way back in the 90s. So in a certain sense, it didn't appreciate, but it also didn't lose value. It was pretty much just a store of value. So if you bought it, you didn't lose money, which I can't say for 98% of the other cards from that era, or even from the 50s and the 60s. Like, common cards are around, like $6 each. If you're looking at, 50s cards, like late 50s. Early 60s, you can kind of get away with that too, $5 or $6 per common, if it's in decent condition. If it's in really good condition and it's graded, then obviously you're talking about a lot more money. But I'm just talking about ungraded with, again, because most of mine is ungraded. I would love to know. I mean, it's hard to do a poll on this, but if you want to put in the comments, like, what percentage of your collection is graded as opposed to ungraded? I would say 90% of my collection is ungraded. 90%. I have graded cards because when you do trades, you're trading for graded cards. And I was a dealer over the last 3 years, 3 or 4 times. And when you're a dealer behind the table, you get a lot of graded cards because that's the hobby today. So if I'm selling an ungraded card, I'm going to get graded cards back in, some kind of deal. And so that's kind of what's happened, is I've been able to accumulate some graded stuff. Now, I'm looking more towards autographs on cards. So that's sort of one of the things that I'm doing with my collection, is I'm doing autos on cards as part of the collection. And it's interesting because I have, actually, give me a sec. Let me show you. So this is the interesting thing. So I'm going to show you this, and I don't know exactly what I want to do. So give me one sec. All right. So here's the card. So I got this graded at PSA because they do the authentication. I'm looking at SGC with JSA to do authentications on autographs, but this is one of the Mantles that I got autographed by Mickey Mantle myself. Like, I got it autographed by him at Mickey Mantle's on Park Avenue way back in the 90s. Okay. So I don't remember what year, probably was 1990. So this is the card. Okay, so it's a 1963. Oh, get it out of there we go. So a 1963 Mickey Mantle autographed, certified autograph from PSA. Again, because selling it raw, you have to trust that my story is real, which, if you know me, you can trust it. But then what do? You can't sell it off my story. Only I can sell it off my story, because I'm the one that can authenticate my story. This is what happened with Chasing Cardboard, with the Rock Auto. The person that got it autographed by Dwayne Johnson is the only one who can sell that story. Once Ty got it in the collection, he can't use that story anymore, because now it's secondhand, third hand, like, it's no longer authenticated. It needs to now have, that's why we have PSA and Beckett, and now a CGC with JSA. That's why we have them to authenticate these autographs, because you can trust me. But now, if you want to buy it and then sell it later on, you need the authentication. So in a sense, the grading is very important for that. So the question is, should I sell this card or should I keep it, since I'm trying to do autos? Now, I already have Mickey Mantle autos. I have an auto on a baseball, and I'm going to, when I finally get, we're looking to buy a house, and hopefully, I'll have a man cave, and I want to get one of those home plate, I guess, cases for baseball. So I can put 12 baseballs in a home base shape case. And one of those baseballs will be a Mickey Mantle baseball, which I have. So I don't need the auto on card. Now, this is worth around 4K. It has gone up in value since I got it graded last year. And that's the thing, is that the Mantle himself, Mickey Mantle, is now part of this escalated, like this upper echelon of athletes for sports cards. So you have to also be careful, because you can overpay for these upper echelon cards. So what are we talking about? We're talking about, so Mickey Mantle overall, all Mickey Mantles are a good player to buy. I would say Shohei Ohtani is a good player to buy, but be careful that you don't overpay, because you don't want to be paying future tense prices. You want to be paying present tense prices. And that seems to be one of the problems that a lot of people are having, is they're paying future tense prices today and then hoping that it'll go up in the future. And it's like, well, no, you already paid the future tense price. So this card is worth around 4K right now. Do I think that's a good price to pay? Yes, because I think this will continue to go up steadily. Like, I think in a couple years, like I think in maybe 2-3 years, it'll probably worth 5,000. Again, not tremendous appreciation, but it will continue to rise and probably hold with inflation. So it's a store of value. So is this a good card to buy? Yes. Is a Mickey Mantle auto on card a good card to buy? Yes. One, Mickey Mantle is no longer around, so he's not autographing any more cards. Two, he is the most iconic sports figure in baseball. He is the Grail. He is the GOAT. There's no more, there's no argument. It's Mickey Mantle. That's it. So his 52 Topps card is a store of value. Does it appreciate? It's argumentative. We don't know. Again, somebody bought the 9.5 for 12.6 million. Who knows what it's actually worth? I don't know what someone else will pay for that. I know that if I had that kind of money, I would not pay for it. I would not pay for it. But again, these things are all about stores of value. So I got another comment here. So 28 relics. You sure Zion isn't the GOAT? Yes, I'm pretty sure of that. I like the question though. I love the sarcasm. I'm from New York, so I love the sarcasm. You guys want to be sarcastic? Absolutely. This is the place to be. That's a great question. Awesome. Anybody else have any other sarcasm? I please bring it on. This is awesome. Again, hopefully I'm going to be able to do those two shows. So I'll repeat them, the two shows that I want to do. So if you have questions, please put them in the comments. So basically, we're going to do retail versus wholesale. What questions do you have in terms of retail? So selling individual cards as opposed to selling lots, bulk lots. So you have to charge less in a bulk lot. And I'm going to do in that video, I'm going to do a whole video on it. I'm going to actually go through all the eBay lots, and I'm going to basically destroy these selling prices. Again, I did that a little bit like about a month ago, where I went through these lots. One guy was trying to sell 4 Gretzky rookies for like $169,000, and it's like they weren't even worth 50K. That's the problem. 4 Gretzky rookies. Again, they were all graded. So we had a 9, I think, an 8.5, an 8, and a 7.5. So those were the best one was a 9. Now, it was all KSA. It wasn't PSA. KSA is the Canadian grading company. Again, not an issue. Still, it's a 9, but it's not worth $100,000. It's only worth about $20,000. And that's the problem, is that people's, like, for some reason, we are all still in this euphoric pandemic mindset that baseball cards and sports cards are worth so much money. So when you find a box of cards, you're like, oh my God, I'm a rich person. And then when you start to actually comp out the cards, you start to realize, like, oh, these are not worth as much as I thought they were worth. Like, they're not worth as much. Now, so here are the other cards that I have. Now, I am going to sell them. I don't know how. Again, see, this is the question. How do you want to sell your cards? I don't know. I don't like eBay. I'm just, that's a personal thing. I just do not like eBay. I'm leaning towards Veriswap. I'm leaning towards Veriswap because I just think that that's probably the best way for a collector to get the most value, because you can put the cards up, you can sell them, but you can also do sale trades, which I think is probably the best for collectors. And it's the easiest way because you can just put it up there and then just promote the link on social media and people can go and find you and see what you got. So here's another auto. So this is also Frank Thomas. So that's the rookie. Again, certified by PSA. I personally got it signed by Frank Thomas. I sat with Frank Thomas for about 20 minutes and he signed a whole bunch of stuff for me. This is also Roger Clemens. So he put an inscription on his. So MVP. I have another one. I think it said 20K. Again, I met Roger Clemens. I sat with him. He signed this stuff. I was a dealer from the age of 13 to 18. So for 5 years, I met all of these players. I sat with them. I gave them a whole bunch of baseballs. Now, I sold all of my baseballs to a dealer. Again, I had to sell it in a bulk lot because I had 100 signed baseballs. I had just too many. And you can't sell them individually on eBay and still have a life. It's just too much. And that's not what I'm here for. I want to take the money that I can get from all this stuff and go and buy the stuff that I actually want to keep. I'm curating a PC. So that's, hopefully everybody can get that. Now, Card Collector 2 is doing a whole bunch of really interesting social media on Instagram. And he's interviewing a lot of these social media, I guess, stars. And so he had an interview with the King of Cards the other day. And I want to say that I thought it was interesting because he admitted that he made a huge error when he first got into cards, which was around 2019. And he had bought a whole bunch of stuff for about 15K and he wanted to just sell it out. And somebody offered him 10 and he took it. He sold everything for $10,000. He lost $5,000. But he said that he learned so much because it was like, so I can spend 15,000 on these cards. But if somebody else wants to buy my whole table, they will only give me 10. I need to not overpay for cards because the selling is a lot harder than the buying. That's it. That's the bottom line. If you are in this hobby, the selling is a lot harder than the buying. That's probably the best thing you need to know. So I have another card that I want to show you. So I picked this up, I would say 2 months ago. Yeah, about 2 months ago. So it was during spring training or right before spring training started. So this one's a Jackson Holiday auto. Okay, so it's out of 49. Now, I got it for 80 bucks. 80 bucks. I was in a trade, so I wasn't giving any cash away. I got it in a trade. And honestly, this trade has been reaping benefits for me for basically a year. I have done an amazing job with this local card shop, and I love this card shop. I love the owners of the card shop. They're just such nice people. But anyway, so I was able to get this for about 80 bucks. I just did the comps on it, and it's already up to 140. It's already up to 140. Now, do I think it will go up a little bit more? I think so. I think this could probably get to 160 or 170, but it's at 140 now. And I'm totally like, this is the kind of stuff that I think I would put up on Veriswap because I think that I could get 140 for it in value. And because of that, there's things that I would like that I don't really want to pay cash for. Again, kind of trade down. So I would trade down. I would get a whole bunch of lower end cards that I'm looking for that I don't have to then pay cash for. And that's the thing, is sometimes you need to trade down instead of going up the ladder. Sometimes you want to go up the ladder. Now, I've also done this, which I showed you guys a couple weeks ago. So I'm going to get, hold on, I'm going to get the box. Hold on. Okay, so this is the box. I will show you inside the box. So what I did is I organized all of the bulk. I mean, it's a ton of bulk. So I don't know how well we're going to be able to do this. Let's see. So you can see the box. I'll pull out some of the stuff, but I already showed you guys. So this is the point. Is a lot of bulk here. Okay, so these are all Dwight Gooden 85s. Okay, all of them. There you go. Yeah, it's full. So what I'm thinking is, and maybe if I can collaborate, this would be amazing. I would like to go to Burbank Sports Card Shop over in California, because it's only a few hours away from me. If I collaborate with Mojo Sports and do some kind of video over there, I'd like to trade all of this in and see how much I could get to trade up. You know what I mean? Like, all of this stuff, it's probably worth a few grand. Again, because of the fact that I have so many. Like, these are all the 84 Darryl Strawberries. You know, it's a ton. Like, here you go. Again, I was a dealer from 13 to 18. And I know this is sort of giving you like the evidence that I've been saying for a while. Like, yeah, I had a hoard, I had a whole, like 8 million cards. And I know it's tough to show that. Like, well, no, you didn't. You didn't have 8 million cards. No, I had it. And I had somebody ask me, well, that meant you probably had storage units. Yes, I had 2 storage units plus my parents' basement. And so that's the issue, is that, you know, you have to know where it is. They do not sell for $1 to $2. They sell for more than that. They sell for about $3 to $4 each. William, that's what they sell for. Sell for $3 to $4 each. So what will Burbank give me? They'll probably give me $1 to $2 each. Maybe I can get $2.50 from Burbank, but they're selling, because he can sell them for $3 to $4. So if I get lucky, I would do store credit. And so therefore I would be able to get more with store credit, because he gives more store credit than not. These are the Griffies. So again, Donruss, like, they're selling for about $6 each. That's what they're selling for. What are they worth? Again, whatever a card sells for, it means it's worth a little bit more, because nobody's going to pay exactly what it's worth. No one's going to pay exactly what it's worth. They're going to pay a little bit less than what they think it's worth. So this is worth about $9 to $10 each. So they're worth that. So people will pay like $6, because they're like, oh yeah, I'll pay $6 for that. Last 4 sales. There you go. All $6. Exactly. Like, again, thank you, Michael. I appreciate Michael. Again, a lot of people want to downgrade a lot of stuff. Again, a lot of people want to downgrade a lot of stuff. But yeah, no, I know what they're worth. Again, I'm not saying they're worth thousands of dollars each. The whole box. Again, there's God knows how much stuff. I mean, here's the Greg Maddux rookies. So go ahead, guys. Tell me, how much are the Greg Maddux rookies? Okay. Yeah, William, one sale from Greg Morris is not a comp. Hopefully you understand that. Okay. One sale from Greg Morris is not a comp. Michael already showed you last 4 sales of the 84 Strawberry are all $6 each. Okay. That's what you need to know. Not one sale. That you're not doing comps correctly if you're not listening to Michael. I don't know what it is. I understand that you just looked it up, but you're looking it up wrong. Apparently, I don't know how, but you are. I don't know how, but you can also look up. There's another app. So everybody, what's the app that gives you min max on the cards? Because that one will also really tell you like kind of the range, which you need to know. You need to know what the max range is. So at the Arizona State Card Show, which was March 20th or so, I finally sold because I have another one. I sold my Tom Seaver rookie card, 1967 Tom Seaver rookie. It was a 6.5 SGC. The top end of the range was 1,800. It was worth, again, it's worth about 2,000. So the top end of sales is 1,800, which makes perfect sense because it's worth 2 grand. So someone will pay 1,800 for a 2 grand card. Now the bottom end was about 1,300. And so what I was able to do was do a cash trade offer. So I could sell the card, get cash, which I was very happy with the cash offer. And then I was basically negotiating how many cards can I get in return? Like, because I want more value. I like the cash offer. I'm totally like, in fact, the dealer was sort of like, so we're good on the cash? I'm like, yeah, I'm totally. That was a very fair cash offer, but I want a little bit more value. So can we do some cards in addition? And he was like, well, it depends on what cards. And so I just kept looking, going, okay, I'll take this, I'll take that. And I was able to get it up to about 1750 in value. So I got a few $100 in trade value in addition to the cash offer, which meant for me, I got the full offer that I would like because now I don't have to pay for other cards that I would like. So I didn't pay for anything. I sold the card, got cash as well. And now I can deploy that cash to do something else, which is what I'm actually looking to do now is, I got a ton of cash from that card. So now I can kind of go, okay, well, what's next? Let me do one more comment here. So this is from Sports Card Live. Hello, EDI, long-time listener, first-time caller. I love it. Absolutely. How do you factor in the hourly rate you need to earn when you buy a lot or collection? If you're a flipper, if you're doing this for business, that's a very good question because you should be paying yourself. If this is a business, you have to make money for your time. If they're a collector, they don't really care. I mean, I don't factor in how much time I put into this because it's all for fun. Like I don't get paid for the YouTube channel. I mean, I make a little bit of money. I don't make enough to be able to do giveaways yet. I don't make enough to be able to do, to buy packs and to buy boxes. Although I don't, again, I don't advocate doing that. But I mean, the easiest way to do content and to do giveaways is to basically give away packs. That's just the easiest thing. But I don't make enough money on this channel. I basically make like $3 a video. I mean, just for you guys to be aware, like I make like $3 per video that I make. So that's just not a lot. So, again, hopefully this channel grows and whatnot. And so once I can start actually making money on the videos, then I'll do more. I'll do giveaways. Like I'll give stuff away. Like I don't, it doesn't matter to me. I would like to be able to create a community. I've been talking about sports cards since I was a teenager. So to do this is amazing. And you guys see it right there. ESPN, here I come. I've always wanted to be on television. So, I just never looked old enough. I look like a man now, but when I graduated from college, I look like a teenager. I look like a 15-year-old. And so sports directors, because I went and interviewed for all of these jobs. I interviewed for ESPN. I interviewed for CBS Sports. I interviewed for ABC Sports. And none of them would hire me because I looked way too young. Now I don't. Now I look like a man. And so, I age very, very slowly. So yeah, when I'm like 80, I'll probably look 50. And people are going to be like, you're 80? That's incredible. You don't look 80 at all. But we're getting there. Everybody gets old. So that's just the way it goes. But my point being is that, you should probably try to make 15 to 20 bucks an hour. If you really want this to be a business, then if you're going to be at a minimum, you should be making 15 to 20 an hour. If you can make more than that, I think you're doing really well. So if you can get it to 40 bucks an hour, you're really talking about a real job. If you can get it to 50 bucks an hour, you're talking about a real job. Now, I have a background in education. I'm an expert in education, but I've also worked in media. I've also worked in politics. I also worked in PR. I was a speechwriter. I was, a press secretary. I've done a ton of stuff in my career. And so, I'm used to making way more than $50 an hour. When I do consulting, I get paid $300 an hour. So sports cards doesn't pay the bills. It's fun. That's all it is. And for some of you, like, again, I was able to have a really nice conversation. I met Trike Sports at the Arizona State show, and then I did an interview with him on the channel. He's a very nice guy. He's a young guy. He's the next generation. Mojo Sports is the next generation. I like that. Even Card Collector 2, even though he think he's in his 30s, they're the next generation. And I'm happy with the direction of the hobby, because we have a lot of really good people who are being the stewards for the next generation. The problem is that the culture that's around sports cards is being tainted by like Fanatics and Michael Rubin and sort of the BS that's going on. PSA is not a good company. It's just not. We need them. Like I said, like we need them to authenticate these autographs. We need them, but they're not a good company. They're very poorly run. Well, they're run well to make money, but they screw collectors over left and right. The new announcement that they made, I don't know if you guys know, but they made a new announcement. They just raised their prices and they adjusted their turnaround time. So basically, you're going to pay more and get it back later. This is all nonsense. They have no backlog. It's all a lie. Because if they have a backlog, then no one should send in cards to PSA. I'm just telling you right now, if they actually legit have a backlog, then you should never send your card to PSA ever again, because they don't know what they're doing. They have the same volume that they did during the pandemic, and they doubled their employees. So if they couldn't handle it back then with less employees, then how are they running now? This is all a tactic to take more money from you. That's it. This is a business tactic. They are announcing that they have a backlog so that you are forced to pay more money for nothing. This is shady business practices. I'm just telling you right now. It's not unethical. It's not illegal. It's just shady. That's it. There's nothing illegal about anything they're doing, and there's nothing unethical. It's just shady. And that's the problem that I see with the hobby today, is there's a lot of shady people, just shady. And again, there's nothing you can do other than making decisions. There's nothing you can do about it. There's always going to be shady people, but you can make decisions. What I'm hoping is that people who watch this channel just start to have a mindset of, I'm going to play the straight and narrow. I'm going to be the honest guy. I'm going to be the one that's not going to participate in these shady activities. The whole wax issue is a gambling addiction. If you have kids, do not buy wax. You are going to hurt your children. If you know kids, don't encourage them to buy wax. It is a bad idea. There is only one reason to buy wax, and that is because you want a lottery ticket. And teaching kids to buy lottery tickets is a bad, bad lesson. It's a bad lesson. I'm an educator, and I'm telling you, it's a very bad lesson. What we should be teaching kids is about the cards. What we should be teaching kids is about the players. What we should be teaching kids is about actually collecting, and also about store of value. We should be teaching them that, this is worth, and now I haven't done comps, but I'm just going to say it's probably worth about $200. Again, estimate. I don't know exact, but I doubt it's worth more than that. If it is, well, that would be great on you guys because I wouldn't put more value on it than that, and you guys could get it for that. But again, it's probably between 150 and like 200. It's authenticated. It's a Roger Clemens auto. Now, it has the MVP inscription, so that might make it more interesting for someone as a collector. But it's not worth all that much money. Obviously, the card that you guys know is worth money. This is the card that's worth money. This is worth about 4K. Legit. Now, would I love it if it was worth 10K? Great. Yeah, but it's not. It's not. Like, you have to be honest. Like, that's the thing. You have to be honest. But that's today. That's April 2025. It's worth 4K. Now, what do I think it's going to be worth 2026? I think it's going to be worth more than that. I think it's going to be worth more than 4K. How much? I don't know. Is it going to go through the roof? No. And that's the thing. That's the thing. You just hopefully you're just getting a mindset around like, okay, cards are worth money, but they're not worth $1 million. There's only, I did a video for you guys. This was now 6 months ago. You can look at it. It's basically, it says like how many cards are worth $1 million or more. You can go look in the archive. It's a great video. It gives you the list of all the cards that sold for more than $1 million. You would be shocked. There's not that many. Like, there's not that many. And I know that the Paul Skeens just sold for over $1 million. I know that. So obviously that's not in that video because that was from 6 months ago. Paul Skeens just got sold. I don't think these 101 patches, the MLB debuts, I don't think they're going to hold that value. Don't think that's a store of value. I do think the future of the hobby, these MLB debut patches, I believe are the future of the store of value. I think those cards will retain value into the future, but I don't think they're going to retain the $1 million price tag. I just don't. I don't think there's going to be that many people who want to pay that kind of money for those cards. Now, I could be wrong. Again, we won't know for another decade. We won't know for another 10 years whether or not they do or not. But I don't think so. Just based on what I know about people and what I know about the hobby. I don't think it's going to retain that value. Now, how much lower than $1 million will it go? I don't know. Will it be 800,000, 750, $500,000? I don't know. But I don't think it's going to, it's an MLB patch. It's a novelty. It's a one of one and a real one of one. You can't have more than one MLB patch. So I like that. I like that the actual scarcity is actual scarcity. It's not manufactured scarcity. So I like that fact. But I don't like the fact that people inflate it to more than it is. Now, if you had a Shohei Ohtani MLB patch, that's a different story. If that card was out there, if like there was an MLB patch for Shohei Ohtani or Aaron Judge, then yes, if that went for $1 million, yes, that would retain its value. But a Paul Skeens, who has no career to speak of at this point, and pitchers in our era don't last more than 4 years, so none of them are going to be Hall of Fame. Like, I don't know if everybody. So here's the question for you guys. Can you name any one of the new pitchers, let's say anybody that's come out in the last 4 years, that you think is going to be a Hall of Fame pitcher at the end of their career? I can't think of anybody who's going to survive. We're going to have, so Justin Verlander is going to go to the Hall of Fame, and Max Scherzer is going to go to the Hall of Fame. Those two guys are going to be Hall of Famers, but they're at the end of their career. Who is a pitcher today that can make it 10 years, 12 years, 15 years? Nolan Ryan pitched for 20 years. Like, I mean, it's nuts. Nolan Ryan pitched for 20 years. No one is pitching that long. They have 4 years to basically, that's it. And then they blow out their arm. Jacob deGrom was the best pitcher of this generation, like the new generation. He started in 2014 and his career's already done. It's done. That's a decade. And he only pitched like 8 years of that decade. He didn't pitch all the time. He got hurt and he just blew out his arm and there's nothing left. And he never won a World Series. He didn't even break any records because he was old when he got into the majors. Like he was already mid-20s when he got in, or late 20s. So like he only had a short window to be able to perform. It's not like, Sandy Koufax, who literally lit everybody up. Like Sandy Koufax struck out 300 batters like every year. It's insane. Jacob deGrom was striking out like 250, so it was nice numbers, and his ERA was under 1. But he didn't last. He only did that a couple years and then he was gone. So the point being is that even enough to get to the Hall of Fame? I don't think so. I don't think that Jacob deGrom is a Hall of Famer. Does anybody want to take the opposite argument? Like, Jacob deGrom is a Hall of Famer. I don't think so. It's the same argument that I make against Mike Trout. I don't think Mike Trout is a Hall of Famer. I understand that he's won 3 MVPs. I understand that. But overall, his career kind of fell off the cliff. I don't know. I don't know where the baseball writers are going to fall on him. Like, I don't know what the baseball writers are going to do about Shohei. I don't know how many years Shohei will play in Major League Baseball. If he plays a decade, I think he's a Hall of Famer easily, if he plays a decade. But I don't know if he's going to play a decade in America. I don't know if he will. That he would need to play, because I think 2018, so we'd need to play 3 more years here in order to get to that decade. If he plays 3 more years here, I don't know. I don't know if he will. Because, again, he doesn't need to. He's got all the money. He's going to go back to Japan. He's a national hero. He's a national hero. But if he plays 10 years, then yes, he's a Hall of Famer. He's more of a Hall of Famer than Mike Trout. And that's the issue, because Mike Trout only has 300 and some odd homers. So he didn't get to the 500 mark. Fred McGriff got in with 497 homers. So he was close. And his other numbers were really good. And Fred McGriff was a great player. Mike Trout is a great player, but McGriff also finally got a World Series. So, that's the other thing. Trout doesn't have the championships. He doesn't have the playoff series. He doesn't have these other things, these other tangibles. He does have 3 MVPs. Now, if he wins another MVP, then okay, yeah. I mean, then the argument's done, and he's a Hall of Famer, because no one has done 4 MVPs. Like, that's insane. But I don't know. That's my question. So yeah, Philly Joe, I'm following the comments here. Absolutely. So let me get to, so Michael said the last PSA 10 I consider buying at a show. I flip it over, and there is an obvious crease in a corner. Imagine paying a premium for that quality of grading. Michael, you're absolutely right. Again, there's a lot of issues with PSA. There's a lot of issues with PSA. It's just, there's no other way to put it. There's a lot of issues. I wish it wasn't that way. I wish that PSA was doing a better job, but things changed. They got bought by, a major conglomerate. Basically, they're owned by a billionaire, and their business practices are just not that good. And that's it. We're dealing with a quality control problem. And again, like I said, shady business practices. So yeah, I agree with you, Michael, on that. Philly Joe, so debut patches are the best hobby idea in over 30 years. Philly Joe, I agree with you 100%. I do not like the relics. I'm just going to say this right now. I do not like relics. I think it's dumb. I don't think it's worth anything in the future. I think you could put, so base cards are worth nothing now, obviously, because they've overprinted and they've devalued their value because of the fact that they've combined the base set with the lottery. Again, I think for the hobby, the best thing to do would be to separate the lottery from the base set. So basically the base set would be on its own so that you could do the pure collecting if you wanted to. So basically that you'd have like the base set is the first set that comes out. That's the first wax box. So that's like, so it's, there's no more series 1, series 2 nonsense. It's just, here you go. It's 2025 Topps baseball. End of story. That's the base set. There's nothing else in there but the base set. Then you can do your hobby boxes, which have the patches and the numbers and the lottery tickets and all the other stuff, because you can now charge a premium on that stuff. And for people who want to do the lottery, they have a choice. They can do that. For the people who just want the base, they can just buy that. And those cards would then be worth, again, the rookies would be worth, you know, let's say 20, 40, 50 bucks. And they might retain value based on if it's a good player. It'll go back to the way it was for pure collectors. And the wax boxes, you don't have to charge ridiculous amounts because you have separated it out. So you're going to make money. Like Topps would make a lot of money if they did that, because you would make your basically your base mount from the base, from that, you know, 2025 series. Basically, that's the base set. Stop printing complete sets at the end of the year. Again, that's a dumb idea. That just oversaturates the market with more cards, which no one needs. So basically, you'd be saying, look, buy the wax. It's the base set. If you want to build a set, you build it out of the wax. We're not going to charge you an arm and a leg for that wax. So let's say the blaster box, I think the price points are good now. So a blaster box at Walmart or Target is, you know, 10 bucks, 12 bucks. Like, that's fine. Like, that's a perfect price point for about 50 to 60 cards. That's it. And then you buy a whole bunch of them, you open them up, and you build your set, or you look for your rookies or whatever. It's not breaking the bank, and it creates this, again, community aspect of cards. Then the lottery is in the hobby boxes. It's a whole different thing. You're not going to Walmart or Target to get the lottery. You're just doing the base set there, and that is that price point. It's a perfect price point for them. 10 to 12 bucks. Here you go. Here's a box. I think that they need to get away from the hanger packs because the cards are getting damaged. And I think that's a problem. They should only have boxes because that protects the cards, and get away from the hangers. And again, it probably costs them more to do, you know, to do the hangers. Just do the blaster boxes. That's it. That's all you need. Just do blaster boxes all day, all night. They will make a fortune. And it's again, that's all the hobby needs as a base. Then you do the lottery after that. That's the second set that comes out. And then you could even do additional sets. Like, you know, they have 15 different sets. So yeah, you can do additional sets after that. You can do, you know, your signature series, you can do your museum collection, you can do all of these other sets, but that's later on. And that could be specific types of stuff that people want. Absolutely. And you can charge so much for that stuff because it's specialty. It's specialty. But the problem is that the base stuff is now worthless. Again, it's all worthless. And I think that the relics, you can get maybe $1 or $2 premium on that. So if a base card is only worth 50 cents, then a relic card is only worth $2.50. That's it. And if you're paying more than that for a relic, I think you're overpaying. I think it's a bad idea. Now, if they're going to do relic autos, again, the autos make things interesting because autos are autos. And there's always a market for autographs. There's always a market for autographs. And since we don't have real access to the players anymore, these autographs are actually probably the best way to get autos. Because if you go to a show, you're going to pay way more for an auto than you could just buying a single with the auto. Most of the time, like a lot of autos are only 20 bucks. You have to pay 40 bucks if you go to meet the player yourself. Like I'm looking for a Keith Hernandez auto card. Unfortunately, there's a couple that I would like, but people are trying to sell them for, again, not like a ton more, but they're like $10 over what they're really kind of going to go for. And I'm like, I don't like talking to people on eBay. I just don't like it. I feel like everybody's got an attitude problem. And so like if I make an offer, that's so if somebody's selling it for, let's say they're selling it for $40, I think it's worth like 15 to 20 because it's Keith Hernandez. Like, it's not that big a deal. He's got tons of autos. So I'm like, maybe if I offer 18, but he's trying to sell it for 40. So if I offer 18, in his mind, he's like, well, you're insulting me. I'm not insulting you. They're not worth what you're selling it for. You're insulting the market. And that's the issue, is that when you put a card up for a price that's so far above the market, you're the one that's being insulting. And so if you get an offer, the offer's not insulting. The offer, if it's reasonable, and my offer would be reasonable, so if the guy countered at 20, I might say, okay, I don't know. I'm like, I paid 20 for the Doc Gooden auto because Doc doesn't sign a lot of stuff. Keith Hernandez has a ton of autographs. That's it. He has a ton of autographs. So I paid, 20 for the Doc auto because it's hard to find. It's hard to find a good Doc auto. But Keith Hernandez has a ton of autos. So again, that's my question. All right, let's do some more comments here. This is actually nice, doing the comments in the show with the show. So let's see here. Michael, I think Ohtani gonna end up like Ichiro, who is also a rich national hero, and he spends all his free time in Seattle in his uniform. That's you. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Ichiro is a good comparison because he just got into the Hall of Fame, and Ichiro deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. He's one of the best pure hitters in baseball history. Like, there was nobody better at hitting. Like, he's probably, like, if you could rank them, you'd probably put like Ted Williams and then Ichiro, or maybe George Brett's in there somewhere. Like, those three guys are the best hitters in basically like the 20th century. We 20 and 21st century. So because it's Ted Williams is way before my time, but so there was a bunch of hitters before Ted Williams, but I don't know much about them. I wasn't alive, and nobody I know actually talked about them. But like, those are the three. Like, if you were going to talk about pure hitters, those are the three. So you got Ted Williams, Ichiro, George Brett. There you go. Those are the three purest hitters in baseball history. I don't know a lot of people that collect George Brett. It's interesting. He batted .390 one year. He was the only one to flirt with 400 since Ted Williams. Tony Gwynn, I think, actually got close as well, but Tony Gwynn only did it for like a year or two, and then he fell off. George Brett was a hitter from the beginning, like Ichiro. Ichiro would have 200 hits a year. It's insane. Like, I mean, I would look at his stats and I'd be like, holy cow, how is he doing this? And I obviously, way back in the day, I was doing fantasy baseball, so I was really into the stats. And I just, every year, you're like, Ichiro just hits 200. It's amazing. He just hits every single time he gets up the plate. But anyway, so here we go. Let's see. Philly Joe, my PC guy. I want his. Who's your PC guy? I want his auto on a card in person. Don't really care about his auto being bought. Who's your PC guy? Ohtani or Ichiro or who? Yes, Michael. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you look up the stats, Alec Bohm. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, look, you're not going to find an Alec Bohm in a poll. Like, you're going to have to go to eBay to buy that, and somebody's going to charge you more than it's worth. Like, how much is an Alec Bohm auto right now, guys, on eBay? What's the comps on an Alec Bohm auto? Again, somebody's going to charge you way more than what the comps are, because that's just what people do. I don't know why. I don't know why they do that. What do you guys think? Why do people put up their cards on eBay for, prices that are just absolutely ridiculous? Like, why do people do that? It's just because they want a sucker. Like they're like, I'm just going to put it up. And if somebody buys it, that, they're the ones that are screwed and I get the money. Like, I don't, the opposite of where I'm coming from. It's just the from. I don't try to screw people over. If I know a card's worth X, then I try to sell it